hours before
È una sessione proprio dedicata,
before
come
closing
potete
at
leggere dallo
5,
schermo,
fashion
alla
show will follow. This
moda
session
sostenibile.
is on
Ehm,
sustainable,
introdurrò io la problematica, le iniziative, un breve accenno alla
on
normativa,
sustainable fashion. I will
ehm,
give you a brief introduction
dopodiché
to
passerò la
relevant
parola, dopo
law,
aver anche presentato
and
ovviamente
then
standard
I
bearer
give the floor,
come certificazione di moda
or
sostenibile
before, to
del
speakers. I
progetto
will
stesso. Passerò la
present
parola
Friend of the Earth
al
and its sustainable facial
responsabile
certification,
di
and then I give the
Cotton
floor
Union,
to Cotton Union
che in remoto collega
manager,
da Mumbai,
Cot
ci parlerà di quello
the
che
head
Cotton
of Cotton
Union
Union,
fa,
who is connected online from
nell'ambito della
Mumbai, India,
certificazione della moda sostenibile.
and he will
Probabilmente il più
uh,
attivo a livello
give
mondiale
us
nel
his
certificare clothes,
vision on
quindi
sustainable
organica,
fashion
bio,
and their
così come
activity on
anche il
the
Sept e le altre
certification on
certificazioni.
sustainable textile
Qui
and fashion
accenneremo a
certification.
una recente collaborazione che
We
abbiamo
will then also
sottoscritto insieme a Control Union per promuovere anche
and
il Friend of the
also
Earth
talk
in
about
questo
the
ambito,
recent
e
cooperation
in particolare
we
nella
have
fase di
started with
produzione
Cotton
del
Union
tessile.
of and
Concluderà la
for
sessione un
certification
intervento
with
di una esperta di moda sostenibile,
we will
ci
have
parlerà in
an expert in
particolare
sustainable fashion from Brazil.
del passaporto digitale nelle
She
nuove
will talk about
diciamo,
the digital
iniziative per
passport and other
andare incontro a quelle che sono
initiatives
le richieste anche della normativa di una maggiore trasparenza e
to
tracciabilità
comply
nei
with
claim di
rules and
sostenibilità.
regulation for traceability and
Detto questo,
transparency.
andiamo ad analizzare quella
So
che
now
sono le
we will
problematiche,
start
insomma,
by
l'evoluzione,
analyzing
la crescita
the evolution
notevole della moda,
and the
della
growth
produzione di abbigliamento a livello
of
globale,
fashion and fashion
i suoi
production
impatti, le soluzioni.
worldwide, its impact and possible solutions.
La, la moda, perlomeno a livello di valore, ma anche di produzione,
Fashion, in terms of
dal
value and
2010 al
production,
2030 sarà
uh,
raddoppiata
in
in
the
termini di produzione.
in 2030 will be double
È
than it
un
was
trend
in
di crescita
2010. Its
importante,
growth trend
superiore
is
addirittura
considerable
a
and
quello della
higher
crescita della
than
popolazione, come
that
potete
of
vedere, di
population growth, as you can see here.
all'incirca 2 o 3 volte il
It
trend di
is two
crescita della
or
popolazione,
three times
e
higher than the growth
doppio
of
rispetto
population,
a quello che è il
and
trend
it
di
is
crescita di settori altrettanto importanti come
twice
quello
bigger than
alimentare e
the growth
quello
trend of other
della
sectors,
produzione
such as the food
energetica.
sectors and the energy sector.
È probabile che uno dei fattori che determina
One
questa forte
of
crescita
the
sia
determinant of
lo
this strong
sviluppo dello
growth of the
stile
fashion
fast
sector
fashion,
is
cioè
probably the development of fast
la
fashion.
proposta di
Fast fashion
prodotti sempre più
means
a basso costo,
low cost products
proposti con dei cicli sempre più brevi,
produced
addirittura
with
settimanali, di cambio
short,
di collezioni o
with
proposte,
collection that change
rispetto a
almost
quello
every
che è
week,
stato per tantissimi anni il
which is quite
ciclo
different
stagionale
from the
classico
traditional
di
seasonal
2 cicli all'anno.
cycle of fashion,
In
which
effetti
used to have
siamo,
two
secondo
seasons, two
alcune
cycles per
interpretazioni,
year.
siamo alla terza generazione
We are in the
in
third
termini di
generation of
sviluppo di brand e proposte commerciali
fast
nel
fashion
mondo della
companies
moda.
and brands.
Come vedete, vedete anche qua alcuni dei nomi
And
principali,
here you see some
sempre
of
più
the
veloci
major
nel
brands.
proporsi al
They are
consumatore in
in,
maniera
they have
accattivante,
become increasingly
interessante,
faster
e con
in
sempre
developing new
prezzi sempre più
collections.
bassi.
Prices are lower and lower.
Questo trend, insieme anche
This
alla
trend,
sempre crescente numero di
together with the
acquisti
even
che vengono
growing
effettuati
number
online, pensate che
of
ormai
purchases made
le vendite
online
online di moda hanno raggiunto, probabilmente
uh,
anche superato, perché
in
questo è un
the fashion
dato
sector,
di
E
qualche anno fa il 38%,
e-commerce
probabilmente
has
si stanno
grown very
avvicinando al
fast,
50%. Ed è ovvio che con la
with a percentage
possibilità
of
di acquistare velocemente,
purchases
di
ranging
poter
from
rimandare indietro i
38 to
Reis e non fanno nella
50%
misura
that are
giusta,
made
eccetera, eccetera.
online, with all subsequent
Anche questo,
problems of
con i suoi
ordering
aspetti
the wrong
positivi
size, the
ovviamente,
wrong
ma
color,
determina un aumento dei consumi.
which leads to an
Questo
increase in
significa anche
consumption.
che nel corso
This
degli
also
anni,
means then that
ad
over
esempio
the
qua vediamo
years,
dal 2000 al
for example, here we
2015,
see data from
il
2000
numero di
to
volte che
2015,
indossiamo un capo acquistato si è
we
ridotto da
purchase a
200
clothing item
fino al
and then wear
30% in
it.
meno di volte, cioè indossiamo lo stesso capo meno
We wear
volte prima di
it
poi
less
buttarlo
times. I
via.
mean, in the 2000, we used to wear
Ehm,
each
e
clothing
questo
item
ovviamente
around
significa che
200 times, and now
la
we wear it
produzione aumenta,
30%
come abbiamo già
times
visto,
less.
raddoppiata in questo periodo approssimativamente, e aumentano anche, diciamo, i vari
So
impatti di consumo di
the
risorse e
these
la problematica
also
poi della
these
gestione
different
dei
path of
rifiuti stessi.
consumption has
A livello
consequences
globale la
in terms
Cina
of
ha un
waste
ruolo
production
principale
and
anche in
energy
termini di
consumption.
acquisto di
China has a major role
abiti
in this process.
o di capi, chiamiamoli così. Tuttavia, quando poi dividiamo per la
However,
popolazione, vediamo che il
when we divide the
consumatore in
number of
Cina
items both
spende un
by
quarto
the
del
number of
valore
population,
che un
we
consumatore
see that
americano spende
Chinese
nel corso
consumers
dell'anno
spend
e
4 times less than
acquista
a
23
US
capi in meno
consumer
rispetto
in
ai
clothing
53 totali
items.
di un consumatore medio negli Stati Uniti. E quindi ci sono differenze anche
There
sostanziali
are
all'interno
important
dell'Europa
differences
in
across the
termini
different
di
countries,
spesa
including
media
within Europe, in terms of
annuale
average
in
annual
abbigliamento.
expense in fashion.
Se andiamo a vedere l'aspetto produttivo, le fibre
Regarding
utilizzate nella moda
production, the
si dividono fondamentalmente in quelle
fibers
che vengono
used
definite come fibre naturali, quindi
are
quelle che derivano
natural
fondamentalmente
fibers, that is
dall'agricoltura,
mainly derived
dall'allevamento,
from agriculture,
cotone, lana
the livestock industry,
e via
cotton,
dicendo,
wool, and
seta,
so on, silk,
canapa, eccetera,
canapa,
e le fibre
and
artificiali
man-made
o sintetiche,
fibers, synthetic fibers.
che come vedete nel grafico a destra
As you can see in the graph on
sono
on
quelle
the
che sono
right,
cresciute maggiormente dal
there,
1980, la
there
linea rossa,
man-made fibers,
e
synthetic
ormai
fibers are
rappresentano
represented by the red
circa
line and have
2/3
increased
della produzione
consistently
totale.
since the 80s
L'unica
and
fibra
currently
naturale che ha
account for
continuato a
2/3 of the
crescere,
total production. The
anche se
only
in maniera
natural
molto
fiber
minore
which has
rispetto al
continued to
sintetico,
grow
ehm, è il cotone.
is
E tutte
cotton.
le altre, diciamo, hanno un ruolo
Other natural
importante
fibers
ovviamente
are
nella
still
tradizione
used, of course, they are traditional
produttiva,
fibers,
ma
but
diciamo minore, nettamente inferiore in termini di
they have
quantità.
recorded their use
Ora
has
ci sono
recorded
diversi
a
indici, diversi
consistent
studi
decrease.
che
There are
vanno a
different
quantificare
indexes and different
l'impatto
studies
totale, tenendo
to
conto di
calculate the
tutto il ciclo
total
di vita del
impact
prodotto,
of
delle
fashion,
diverse
considering
fibre,
the entire life
e
cycle of
apparentemente
each item
la
in the
maggior parte
different
di questi
made
indici
in the
concludono
different
che se si va a
fibers.
vedere
Most
l'impatto totale,
of these
le fibre
indexes
sintetiche
show
non
that
sono poi così male, perché a
man-made
livello di
fibers
parità, diciamo, di unità di produzione hanno un impatto
have
inferiore.
a
Le
lower
fibre naturali
impact
derivano ovviamente
than
dall'agricoltura e
natural fibers.
dall'allevamento
Natural
e quindi
fibers come from
non
uh,
hanno
the
impatto zero,
agricultural
hanno
sector and the
un determinato
livestock
consumo
industry,
idrico,
so they
un
involve
determinato consumo anche in
a
termine
certain amount
di
of water
CO2, di plastica,
consumption,
perché
energy
comunque
consumption,
per
production of plastics, and
far crescere
CO2
una coltura in
emissions.
un campo devi comunque trasportare i
Considering
fertilizzanti
all
con
that is
della
needed
plastica,
to
eccetera,
in
eccetera. Quindi ci
agriculture
sono
for
degli
growing
impatti anche in
culture,
questa produzione che sono
the
più
need
alti,
to use
per
fertilizers,
esempio,
to transport
apparentemente, almeno
fertilizers,
dall'indice Higgs. È stato anche criticato per certi aspetti,
and these indexes
come la produzione di
have been
cuoio po' di seta.
criticized. Some sectors in particular
Ma il
have
punto è
raised
che non bisogna
criticism, such
demonizzare
as that of
nessuna
leather
fibra.
or silk.
Bisogna avere, diciamo, un approccio scientifico,
But
rendersi
actually, we
conto
should
che
adopt a
ci sono
scientific approach
positività
when we
diverse,
consider this data
negatività diverse che
and the
devono
impact
essere
of the different
minimizzate.
fibers.
Che c'è un fattore
Each
che
fiber has
non risulta
advantages
da
and
questo
disadvantages,
tipo di indice,
so
che è
we
la
should work to
durabilità,
maximize their
la
benefits
durata del
and
prodotto.
minimize their
Io
negative
faccio sempre
impact.
l'esempio
There are also considerations
dei
linked to the
Bermuda
durability
Sandek
of
che
products. For
comprai negli anni
example,
'80, quando
in the
ancora il brand non
80s,
era
I
niente,
bought a
che sono
Sandek
ancora nei miei cassetti e
brand pair
utilizzabili
of
e
shorts.
sono
I still have
sintetici. È
them
ovvio
and I can
che se
still
devi
use
usare
them. They
qualcosa
are
al
made in
mare, magari
artificial
andarci in
fibers.
barcavela o qualcosa del
So they are
genere,
perfect for
un
going to the
prodotto più
seaside
resistente ha una durata
and
maggiore e allora è difficile
or
poi
go rowing on a
stimare
boat.
effettivamente, se
Their fiber
consideri anche
is
questo fattore,
highly
quello che
resistant,
è il vero
very
impatto in
strong,
termini di produzione,
and
perché
so
in quel
this means
periodo,
that
dagli anni '80
they
adesso,
have
quanti
a
Bermuda di
different
cotone avrò
impact
comprato?
compared, for
Parecchi.
example,
Per cui
to
insomma bisogna
cotton
tener conto di
shorts.
tutto questo. Ripeto, non si deve
So
demonizzare
there are
alcuna
several factors,
fibra,
many
hanno la loro
factors to be taken
utilità.
into account. Each fiber
È ovvio che
has
nell'utilizzo di
pros
fibre
and
sintetiche, ad
cons.
esempio, c'è un
Obviously,
problema in termini di microplastiche
artificial
che vanno poi
fibers
a disperdersi
involve the
nell'ambiente
use
quando
of
vengono lavate.
microplastics.
Sono problemi
When we
comunque
wash
che
them,
devono
these
essere affrontati e
microplastics
risolti. Il
are
nostro
dispersed into the
ruolo, sia
environment,
come
and
sensibilizzatori che come
our
certificazione, è
role
quello di
as a certification
stimolare
body,
sia i
also
produttori
involved
che
in
i consumatori ad
awareness
andare
raising, is
in una
that we have
direzione di ridurre il proprio impatto.
to invite and
Ci
teach
sono
both
molti
consumers and
slide
producers
di questo
how
genere
they can
che
reduce
riassumono
their impact.
l'impatto
There are a lot of slides like this one I'm
del
showing
mondo
you
della moda. È
that's,
ovvio
that
che, essendo una delle principali
summarize
industrie,
the
così come
impact
l'industria
and the
alimentare, così come
different
l'industria
impacts on the
energetica
fashion industry.
o delle costruzioni, è ovvio che ha un notevole impatto sull'ambiente che deve essere
Of course,
ridotto.
the fashion industry has a
Questo
strong
impatto
impact on the
normalmente è nei
environment, but
paesi
every
di
sector, every
produzione
industry
e
has an
molto meno nei
environmental
paesi
impact.
invece di dove viene
And this
consumata.
impact may change
Addirittura i rifiuti poi magari ritornano nei paesi dove sono
in the,
stati prodotti.
from the country
E
where the
quindi ci
goods are
sono dei casi
produced and the
eclatanti come
countries
quello
where the same
del
goods are
mare
consumed
Aral,
or used. Then
che
there
a
are
causa
situations such as that of the Aral
dell'irrigazione
Sea,
per la produzione di cotone è andato a
where
vedere
here
ridursi
in the
la,
Aral Sea,
la
due to
propria
the
estensione
impact
nel corso degli anni, come
of
vedete da
water
queste
use
immagini,
for the
diciamo,
cultivation of
abbastanza drammatiche.
cotton,
C'è poi il problema dell'inquinamento, questo è
has
un
reduced
fiume
its
in
size.
Indonesia che
Then there
almeno
is
ai tempi di
pollution.
questa foto era
This is a river in
particolarmente
Indonesia.
inquinato a causa della
You see the color
produzione
due to
tessile
pollution from the
ai
textile
bordi del
industry.
fiume. E poi c'è un impatto sociale, perché
And then
ovviamente
fashion also has a social impact,
la produzione tessile e della
as
moda
of course,
è molto intensiva dal punto di vista dell'utilizzazione della manodopera, tende ad
fashion
essere
and
a
textile are
concentrarsi
very
in alcuni
intensive
paesi dove il
sectors
costo della
in
manodopera
terms
è più
of
basso e di
manpower.
conseguenza
So they
è
production
possibile che si
mainly
verifichino,
concentrates in
ahimè, ed è
countries
stato
where
dimostrato,
labor
si
costs are
verificano
lower,
delle situazioni di sfruttamento dei lavoratori,
with unfair situations for
lavoro
workers,
minorile,
or children
lavoro
labor,
paghe al di sotto,
or
diciamo,
wages
del costo
below
della vita,
the cost of life,
mancanza di misure di sicurezza,
exploitment
come
of
abbiamo
labor,
stato
lack of
l'incidente di Rana Plaza.
safety
Il fatto che ci siano molti intermediari
devices, of
ovviamente non
safety
facilita la tracciabilità.
measures,
L'abbiamo visto anche
and
con dei
the
grossi brand
presence of a
italiani e
series of
milanesi che si sono
intermediaries
trovati proprio
which
in questa
hinders
situazione,
traceability.
con del
This
lavoro,
also
diciamo, non
happened to
propriamente
Italian
regolare nella
producers
stessa
that were
Italia
found to produce in
che
Italy
riforniva questi grossi
with
brand.
irregular
E quindi
workers
c'è molto lavoro da
working
fare
for big
ancora.
brand
Queste
and
sono
renowned
notizie
brands.
recenti, quindi
So we
c'è
have a lot
tantissimo
of
lavoro
work
da
to do
fare.
in this sense.
La cosa positiva è che il consumatore
What's positive
comincia ad essere
is that
interessato, grazie anche a
consumers
internet e alle
start
informazioni più diffuse, a queste problematiche, a capire
being
la storia
informed and
che c'è
more
dietro al
aware
prodotto.
of these issues.
Ovviamente
And so
l'interesse
there is an
varia
increase in
da
consumers.
nazione a
There is
nazione.
an increased
Nelle aree
interest from
metropolitane ovviamente
consumers
c'è maggiore
to know
interesse di
and
solito su
discover
questi
the
temi,
story of what
e
they buy.
comunque è forte. La generazione più recente
And
è particolarmente interessata a
young
questo tema,
people today
addirittura
are
il
particularly
doppio della
sensitive
mia generazione, che è
to to all
nel
these issues,
grafico a barre,
much more
vedete
than my
25%
generation.
contro circa il 50%.
Here in the
Quindi
bar
questa è una cosa
chart
positiva
shows
che
the
poi magari non si
different
riflette nelle abitudini
percentages.
di acquisto, perché
Then
io
it
ho
is
figli e
I have
ovviamente
children,
spesso succede che si avvicinano magari più facilmente a
and
dei
I
grossi
see that
brand che sono disponibili
they
online, che hanno dei
often
costi più
buy
bassi,
from
eccetera.
big brands that they can buy
E anche qua non
online
bisogna demonizzare i
at a
brand,
lower price,
bisogna
and this is not good.
comprendere,
So
intervenire,
it's important to
sensibilizzare,
understand the dynamics
ma bisogna anche
and the
capire
habits
che
of young
i
people
cambiamenti sono
and
graduali
continue to
e
improve their
necessitano del
awareness.
tempo.
And we should also be aware that
Quando
changes
viene chiesto
occur
al
gradually and take
consumatore
time.
qual è il fattore
When you
che per
ask
loro rappresenta meglio la
consumers,
sostenibilità,
what does sustainability mean?
giustamente
What is the factor that
rispondono
most
la
represents
durabilità, credo che si
sustainability?
dica così in italiano,
They
l'alta
usually
qualità,
answer
e questo è
durability,
interessante anche per i nostri
which
brand
means
che sfileranno oggi,
quality.
perché sono brand di qualità, ma
The
anche e
brands we will
soprattutto
see
la
today
durabilità, come
are
dicevo prima.
all high quality brands, but
L'utilizzo di
durability is
materiali
also very
bio è al
important. The
16%, un po' di
use of
mezzo,
organic materials is
e
16%,
ovviamente invece è molto in alto, 25%,
while we have
rispondono che
25
il
and
valore etico e del
25%
buon trattamento dei
responders
lavoratori è molto importante.
say that it's
Forse
important
addirittura
that
questo è
workers
ancora
in
più
the textile
sentito
and
che
fashion industry
nell'ambito
are
alimentare.
treated fairly.
La disponibilità a pagare di più, in inglese willingness to
As
pay,
for the willingness to pay,
c'è, o meglio,
they are willing to
a
pay
parità di
for
prezzo,
sustainable products
il
or
consumatore
better,
sembra, almeno a parole in questi questionari,
according
disponibile,
to respondent.
interessato a
When if the
acquistare
price is not too
un
high,
prodotto che
consumers
ha delle
prefer
caratteristiche di
to buy
sostenibilità,
sustainable products rather than
e in alcuni casi è
non-sustainable or less
disponibile
sustainable
a
products. And
dedicare un 10% fino a un
they are
25% in più
willing
per
to
il prodotto che
spend, to
dimostra di essere
pay
sostenibile.
from 10 to 25% more to buy sustainable products.
Quando viene chiesto al consumatore
When we
se
ask
ritiene importante la
consumers
presenza di
whether
label, di
they
certificazioni sul prodotto, il
believe
73%
that
dice di sì,
certification labels are important,
approssimativamente, e questo dipende anche dalla
75%
nazione.
answer yes, that it is
Vediamo che in particolare in
important
Cina,
to have
Hong
certification
Kong e Shanghai
labels on clothing
sono molto
items.
sensibili a questo tema,
And
e
this
evidentemente per loro
in
risulterebbe più
particular in
facile
Hong Kong and
e
Shanghai.
immediato avere una certificazione. Il trend di materiali
Regarding materials,
del mercato dei materiali,
or better, the
diciamo a minore
market of
impatto,
materials
rigenerati, riciclati,
of
naturali o
recycled,
bio,
natural,
cresce,
redeveloped, or organic materials. Well, this
e
market is
crescono
growing.
anche quindi i claims da parte delle
And
aziende produttrici, le più grandi, ecco qua
related
sono
claims also are
menzionati
also
listati,
increasing from
i più grandi gruppi.
main producers.
Tuttavia, uno studio inglese del Regno
A
Unito
British study
ci segnala come
showed
di
that
questi claim, che apparentemente in Inghilterra si trovano nel 40% dei
among these
prodotti, nel
claims,
39% dei
they
prodotti,
have in 39% of products in the UK,
un buon 62%
while
non è
62% of
sostanziato
these
da
claims are
delle
not
evidenze,
supported by
e in particolare da
evidence
certificazione di terza parte.
or third-party
E
certificates.
addirittura quasi lo stesso valore, il 59%,
59%
non rispetta i criteri minimi
does not comply,
definiti
does not
dall'autorità
meet the
garante
minimum
delle
criteria
comunicazioni, del marketing e delle
established
dichiarazioni che si
by
possono fare sui prodotti.
the
Ehm,
market,
Di
the local market
conseguenza
authority.
il consumatore diviene sempre più scettico
Therefore, consumers
e
are
ritiene che solo il
more and
20%,
more
il
skeptical,
18% ritiene di
and
potersi
only
fidare
18%
delle
of
dichiarazioni di
respondents
sostenibilità, dei claim di sostenibilità di
say
questi
that
brand.
brand
Quindi
claims
c'è un problema
are
di
reliable.
greenwashing, diciamo.
So there is a problem of
Ed è per questo
greenwashing,
che
and
noi di Friend of the Earth
we from Friend of the
riteniamo
Earth,
molto positivo che l'Unione Europea gradualmente, non solo
we believe it is
nell'ambito
very
del
positive that
tessile e
the
della moda, ma
European
anche in
Union
altri settori,
is
stia
gradually
introducendo regole più
introducing
stringenti
more
per evitare il
stringent
greenwashing.
rules
Il
and
concetto è:
regulations against
perché
greenwashing, not
una
only in fashion and
dichiarazione bio,
textiles, but in different
con
sectors.
i suoi pro e contro, i dubbi che
So
uno può avere sulla validità del bio, ma perché una dichiarazione bio
if we
può
have
essere fatta sul prodotto solo se il prodotto è
sustainability
stato
statements
auditato, verificato,
on
certificato da un
products,
ente
so
riconosciuto,
certifications
e
can
invece
only be
le
issued by
dichiarazioni di
certified
sostenibilità fino ad ora
bodies.
non dovevano essere supportate da una
This
certificazione.
is uh, this is
Quindi,
a novelty
ed è per
introduced
questo
by
che
the
forse
law,
ci ha
as
sentito
in the
qualcuno
past,
lassù all'Unione
certifications
Europea,
were
è
not
stata
needed.
introdotta una nuova normativa contro il
Other
greenwashing
bodies
che
also,
verrà poi
non-certified body
resa
can also
effettiva
issue
nel corso
certifications.
dei mesi e degli anni,
So now,
e
the
che prevede
EU
tra
has also
l'altro
regulated this aspect,
una richiesta di maggiore trasparenza
and this means that
e
in the world
una,
of certification,
una
we have
attività
more
di
transparency,
audit esterni per convalidare determinati
and
standard di
third-party
certificazione e determinati
audits
claim.
are required
Quindi
and
dietro a un
necessary
claim ci
to
deve essere
validate
una certificazione
sustainability
di terza parte,
claims. So each
fondamentalmente,
claim in the EU must
o
now be
comunque una
supported
verifica di
by
una
a
terza
third
parte.
party certification or audit.
Le eco-label già molto diffuse nel mercato
Eco-labels
sono
are
numerose.
widespread in the market.
Le vedete qua elencate, ovviamente questa non è una
Here
lista
you
esaustiva.
see a
Queste sono, diciamo, alcune di quelle
list.
più
It is not
applicabili
complete, of
al
course.
mondo del
These
tessile
are
e
the
della
most
moda, del prodotto
widespread
finito. Quelle più
in the world of
conosciute sono
textile and
GOTS,
fashion.
come vi dicevo,
We have GOTS,
Global Organic Textile
Global
Standard, che
Organic
prevede che la
Textile
materia prima
Standards,
sia bio,
which
quindi sia
requires raw
certificata
material
da
to be
agricoltura bio.
certified as
E
coming
poi
from organic
Ecotex, che invece
agriculture.
si focalizza
Then
maggiormente
Ecotex,
sulla
which mainly
sulla fase di
focuses
trasformazione,
on the
con dei
transformation process,
requisiti che mirano a
which
ridurre l'utilizzo di
is required
sostanze
to
tossiche che possono
reduce
rendere poi tossici anche il prodotto
pollutants
finito.
and toxic
Poi ci
agents.
sono alcune altre certificazioni, diciamo,
Then there are other
più ampio
labels
raggio, più comprehensive,
that are
ma meno
more
utilizzate, come l'eco-label
comprehensive
dell'Unione
but
Europea,
less used, such as
la
the
B
EU
Corporation, che però
eco-label. The
diciamo
B
non prevede
Corporation,
audit specifici
but the
per
B
una sorta di
Corporation does not require
autodichiarazione
specific
ed è a livello
auditing.
aziendale, non a livello
It
di
is a
prodotto.
sort of self-declaration
In più, negli
by the
anni più
company.
recenti, per fortuna, diciamo, è un
Over recent years, in
movimento
recent years,
importante, alcuni dei nostri brand lo
some of
rappresentano egregiamente. È aumentato il numero di aziende
the
che
number of
tende
companies
a utilizzare
that
materiale di scarto
chooses waste
questo fenomeno, diciamo,
material
si definisce come upcycling in
as
inglese.
the raw
È previsto
material has
che si
increased,
raddoppi
and
il mercato
this is
nel
actually
giro dei prossimi
upcycling.
10 anni,
And the market
e
for
esiste una
upcycling
certificazione
is
che può
expected to grow in
verificare
the next
questo
10
claim,
years.
così come il claim di
There is all
riciclo
a
del materiale,
certification for the
che si chiama
upcycling claim,
Global Recycle
that
Standard.
is Global Recycled Standards.
Ecco, l'obiettivo di Friend of the Earth con i suoi
goal, the
requisiti
objective of Friend of the Earth
di
is to
riuscire a coprire le certificazioni principali che abbiamo visto:
is
GOTS,
to cover
Equitex,
all the
Global
main
Recycle
certifications we
Standard e
have.
anche la
I have
SA
just
8000
shown
che
you
riguarda
GOTS,
la responsabilità sociale,
Ecolabel,
perché
and
si può
certifications on social
promuovere un
responsibility,
prodotto tessile o di
as
altro tipo se
one
non si va a
cannot
vedere
promote
anche
a product
che sia prodotto in maniera
if
responsabile
it
per i
is
lavoratori.
not
Non
produced
puoi essere
in a responsible
un
way,
prodotto
including
riciclato, non
towards
ti posso promuovere con la
workers.
mia certificazione, perlomeno Friend of the
So,
Earth,
for
se
example,
non mi
Friend
dimostri
of the
anche
Earth
che tratti bene i lavoratori, che li
cannot
tratti rispettando le
certificate a
normative,
product
eccetera.
as sustainable if the workers used to
I
produce
requisiti dello
that
standard
product are
Friend of the
not
Earth
treated fairly.
vanno a coprire tutte queste diversi
So our
percorsi di
certification range
sostenibilità.
for sustainable fashion
Se tu vuoi
covers
produrre
all the
utilizzando
pathways of sustainability in the world of
materiale tessile
fashion.
d'agricoltura biologica,
So textile
bene, tanto per
material
portarlo,
from
è una
organic
ottima
agriculture.
direzione. Ti possiamo verificare, si andrà a
In this
verificare,
case,
diciamo,
we check,
alcuni aspetti aggiuntivi,
we
certificare come Friend of the Earth e promuovere
check
Friend
and
of the Earth
audit
Sustainable
some
Fashion.
specific
Così
special
è come
aspects
se hai già
to
la
grant our
certificazione
certification.
Eco o altre certificazioni, ad esempio
These
di
also
agricoltura a flotta
for
integrata o Global Gap, eccetera, sono parzialmente
certifications for
equivalenti a
integrated
Friend of the Earth.
agriculture
C'è una
or
flessibilità nello standard che consente di andare a premiare
I mean, the
in
standard
logo chi ha
is
già queste
quite flexible,
certificazioni o si trova in una situazione
and
particolare che
our
magari non è
logo,
neanche
our
coperta da
certification can
queste
also be
certificazioni,
granted by to companies that are covered
anche
by
se
other
queste di per sé già coprono
certifications.
probabilmente il 90% dei casi. Una certificazione poi che
A
non è
certification
solo
that
B2B, ma anche
is not
B2B,
only
B2C,
B2B but
e quindi
B2C,
è fortemente
and so
rivolta al
it's
consumatore
directly
finale che si
linked to end
immedesima
consumers who
nell'essere
should
un amico della terra, un friend of the
identify
earth.
in being a
Non
friend
è
of
un
the earth.
acronimo e quindi
So
è di
it's not
facile
an acronym,
comprensione per
and
il
it's
consumatore.
easy to understand for
Recentemente, ne parlerà
consumers.
tra poco Control Union,
Recently,
abbiamo sviluppato un
we
accordo
have
generico
developed
per lavorare insieme per diffondere di più le
an
certificazioni.
agreement to investigate
Maggiori
further.
informazioni riguardo il progetto Friend of the
Further
Earth sono disponibili
information
sul nostro
related to
sito,
Friend of the Earth project is available on our
così come
website,
gli standard di
as well
certificazione,
as certification
quelli applicabili
requirements
nel caso di fibre
applicable
naturali dell'agricoltura,
in the
dell'allevamento,
case of
e quelli
fibers
relativi
and those
invece alle fibre
related
sintetiche
to
e di prerequisiti per queste
man-made
fibre.
fibers.
Nel corso dei
Over
circa 2 anni da
the
quando è
last
partito il progetto,
2
numerose
years,
sono le aziende che hanno aderito
these are the companies joining
da 4
our
continenti
project. They come from 4
e l'interesse è
continents,
sempre crescente.
and there is an increasing
Siamo
interest
stati
in our
menzionati
project.
sulle
We have
maggiori
been
testate
mentioned by the
della moda
main fashion magazines,
e
and
consci dell'esigenza di
since we
fare network
know
una volta
that
che
we should
l'azienda, il brand
do
è certificato,
networking once
promuove
a company is certified,
forniamo una serie di
we
servizi
provide
aggiuntivi alle aziende
additional
che aiutano
services
a far
for
conoscere
companies
meglio il progetto, la
to
certificazione.
make
Allo stesso
our
tempo
project
aiutano queste aziende a crescere e
more
a
and
fare
more
conoscere gli
known,
altri,
and at the same
stabilire
time
un
helping
network di aziende
companies
sostenibili. Lo facciamo con la presenza nelle fiere.
growing. And we
Questa
do
è una
this at
delle
fairs,
recenti
at
che
the
alla
trade
quale abbiamo
shows.
partecipato. Lo
This was
facciamo
one of
attraverso il nostro concept store
the latest
nella via
trade
maggiore
fairs
frequentazione d'Italia,
took part in.
Corso
We
Vittore
do it
Emanuele in Galleria
thanks to
Passarella 1,
our
due passi
flagship
da San
store
Babila,
near Piazza San
dove
Babila in
nella parte
Milan.
superiore facciamo anche
And in the
teniamo anche interviste,
upstairs,
sono
we
quelli di
also
prestazione e
host
sponsorizzazione. Nella
interviews.
parte inferiore abbiamo diversi
And
brand
downstairs, we
che nel
have several
corso dei
brands
mesi
that
vengono
over
presentati
the
e
months.
proposti al pubblico.
So we host different
Lo facciamo anche
garments,
attraverso le
different
sfilate
from different brands, and we do it during fashion shows, just like we did it last year. And in 1 hour, around 1 hour, we will take part in the fashion show of this year. Further information can be found on our website. And quickly, I'd like to describe the brands that will take the runway this afternoon. There is a brand from Kosovo. As you can see, all of them share commitment features, commitment toward a positive impact. From Brazil, we will have 4 companies, Brazilian companies, then brands from Italy, Kosovo, where we have a development project ongoing. There will be brands from the United States, Brazil, natural cotton color. Brazil is a textile producer, so we can touch with our hands their cotton. This cotton is colored. It originates colored, and usually it has these natural shades. And this means reduction in water consumption and energy consumption. Switzerland, Sweden, Brazil. Others share a strong link with local countries, Switzerland, Albania. And this was the end of my presentation. And of course, we are here if you have further questions. I will give you the mic. Otherwise, I give the floor to the manager of Control Union. And he should be connected from Mumbai. In India, we only have 30 minutes difference in time, and Control Union, Mr. Binay Kumai Chaudhary, Regional Technical Lead, Asia Pacific, from remote. I don't know if he is connected, part of the Zoom.
Yes, Paolo.
Oh, yes. Hello, Binay. You are on mute or something. So if you can turn on your microphone, that'd be great. And then you can start.
Can I start?
Okay, now we can see you. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. And feel free, of course, you can speak in English. And we have immediate translation here for those
everybody.
who need it.
Thanks, Paolo, for giving me insight to present on this occasion. Thanks to WSO, who has provided me a big opportunity to speak about the collaborations. If you look about Control Union, we are a 100 years old company called Royal Control Union. And we started the first organic standards and recycle standard called Global Recycle Standard and Eco-Sustainable Use. Mr. Paolo has given all scenario about the sustainable industries and its usage. And I hope that this entire statistic will be useful for me for explaining you to a better world. Why this collaboration? So Friend of Earth is an organization which talks about sustainability of materials and sustainability of social and environmental fractions in textile industries. And in this, you have a lot of standards coming into place in the industries, which makes the total industry a confusing that what exactly is happening when we claim a standard or when we claim a product or when we claim a manufacturing processes. So with these facts, Control Union, with his knowledge on sustainability, and Friend of Earth, with his fundamental work on technical and social and environmental collaboration with the industries, we started a collaborating friend of art and friend of textile together. Textile sustainability is known to the world, and it's a complex situations. From a natural fiber to man-made fiber to synthetic fiber, combined together with accessories and dyes and chemicals, makes the textile industries more complex. So while talking about the sustainability, we must see that the fibers, the accessories, the dyes and chemical, the packaging industries talks about sustainability. So sustainable textile is focusing on the line of thinking of friend of earth. Means any sustainable process we do, it carries with sustainable materials and sustainable environment. We at Control Union started the work with SCAL International and developed the first organic standards in 2002. And we started in 2005 global recycle standards. After that, we have been developed almost more than 300 standards based on the need of the industries. We like the way the friend of earth and friend of sea take the sustainability to take it forward in case of aquaculture and in case of products that is liked by the sustainable earth. And textile sustainability is something which needs a collaborative efforts with the industries, stakeholders like buyers, manufacturers, consumers, and also the thinkers. This collaboration emphasizes to have a one standard called a gold standards, because many buyers fundamentally work with many standards based on their needs, and we respect to their goals. So while talking about the collaboration of friend of earth and friend of sustainable textile, we feel that every standards with respect to technical needs, social needs and environmental needs is more important to give a good traceability based on the legislation that is looking forward. Today, Europe is looking for a legislation which talks about more on green claims, which talks about digital traceability or digital passport, which talks about deforestations. So these are certain things which requires for a legislation to import and to use by the consumers in the country. Whether it's an importing country or a source country, all the buyers, stakeholders and consumers follow the regulations on the legislation. And these standards focus on various legislation that is practiced by the industries and respected by government legislation. From cradle to consumer, if you look, food, cloth, and shelter, these are the three basic needs of human being. Hence, everything that we do in our day-to-day life, whether it's a manufacturing or whether it's a producing or it is creating a new things, is with continuous improvement. And we respect all buyers' need, buyers' MSRL, buyers' dyes and chemical specifications, buyers' social and environmental needs, technical needs of the product, along with the EU legislation or US legislation like New York Act. Everything is taken into consideration through continuous improvement. While delivering the auditing passport, we believe that we give a roadmap for the manufacturer and give a proper guidelines or gap analysis about their technical, social, and environmental needs. So these standards is a continuous improvement on the gap analysis and gives a way for all these buyers to use their own labels based on the legislation and based on the requirement. If you look to that, every buyer has a digitally driven network. Today, traceability has tossed to different way of working. The digital traceability through blockchain is a new concept that everybody looks forward. However, in digital traceability, users has to put the data for a green labeling. And these data is sometimes manipulated or is giving a raw reference for verification needs. You have traceability through enzymes, traceability through isotopes, traceability through DNA, traceability through chemical tracers. So there are many tracing techniques of the fibers, whether it is a natural fiber or a synthetic fiber or a man-made fiber, that give traceability from source to sink, means from farmer to consumer or collectors to consumers and buyers to consumer. So this make a more of compliance approach with ensuring safety to the standard legislation. So digital passport will be more focal area in the days to come. Many people wants to know the source, whether it is from the land grabbing or it's a clean agriculture practices or a clean processing or collecting practices is important to know to honor the ethical practice in the industries. From cradle to consumer, it's a continuous improvement with respect to energy, with respect to carbon, with respect to water, with respect to waste. Environmental impact has been in line with the sustainable development goals that is required by the industries. I believe that this process to evaluate the environmental impact on the product and process is more important. So every buyer to look to the sustainability, to quantify the sustainability, they look for traceability with impact assessment analysis. Through this impact assessment analysis, one can verify the traceability of the product with how much impact that has been put on the product to produce. Take a case of farmer. If the farmer is growing in the field, the amount of water he's used, the amount of chemical he's used, or it is chemical free to call it as organic, or it is a regenerative practice to call it as regenerative, or it is a better cotton or best cotton that he has practiced in the field, has to be quantified with respect to SDG goals. And the farmer quantify the product based on the sustainable needs and is processing the products through the process chain in the textile industries. Similarly, in case of recycle, whether it is nylon, polyester, whether it is wool or cotton, this needs an approach of collections. So many collections approach, whether it is a rag pickers or a municipality of government to collect from various sources, whether it is a hotel which is collecting various waste, whether it is upcycling, downcycling or recycling, everything is a collector's view with the ethical collection process and given traceability through a process chain. And this gives enough idea to make improvement in our system to have our traceability complete from source to sink. Take this product, how it is having measured with a green future. This has got many standards involved and many products has been utilized. I just gave few standards which has been taken care in this product. To look to that traceability from the source to sink, these standards and their transactions are important to evaluate that how much efforts that the producer has put to collect this material which is friend of earth. The collection of materials which is so-called sustainable and friend to earth is mingled with accessories which has got low impact on environment and social functionaries, take this collaborative approach to measure the sustainability in the final product. This comprehensive verification process, a traceability path for sustainability, is more ensuring with compliance with legislations. So every manufacturing processes, as Mr. Paolo has given many examples from Uzbek cotton to Rana Plaza incidents in Bangladesh to Xinjiang cotton where forced labor is practiced. There are many things comes from the various sources. So when the article is getting in the final shape as a finished product and getting exported to a warehouse to put in the stores, to be used by the consumers, ethical labeling, ensuring traceability, ensuring compilation to the legislation, and also ensuring the continuous improvement in technical, social, and environmental is required. That's what this comprehensive approach of verifications and process improvement is very much essential in the days to come. These standards believe in holistic approach. These standards respect all other standards, and this gives a prolific approach for the manufacturer to improve through a gap analysis procedures. Transparency and traceability with ethical productions is one of the important process. Hence, every buyer, every consumer, every supplier, they through a transactions. A buyer give the orders from finished product to the fabric, maybe to the yarn, maybe to the farmer or to the collectors. So the tires comes from the higher finished product to the lower to the grassroots level like farmers and collectors. While the product moves from farmers and collectors to the consumers. The beauty of these transactions is recorded, and every transaction through sustainable means, through a production means, through sustainable production and processing using sustainable material with a sustainable claim is more important. So any green claim that is validated to various product certification or process certification is important in these standards to give a authentic information and create a gap analysis for improvement. And the traceability industries, as I said, that it goes through a process of changing scenarios and changing responsibility. So today, if you look to these synthetic industries, it has got internal recycling and also petroleum-based manufacturing process. So this standard also focus on water, energy, and waste to quantify the process stability and process manufacturing as shown by Mr. Paolo in his previous slides. Similarly, a man-made fiber aroused from the forest origin woods, you have got UDR regulations, and those woods becoming pulp, and pulp becoming fiber, and fiber becoming a aid for making manufacturing a finished product is more important. So any product coming from viscose or rayon, lyocell, blending, so different man-made fibers or cellulosic man-made regenerative fibers goes through a series of chain from wood to the finished product. That also can be covered in these standards. Any recycling, upcycling, or downcycling products that has got a source traceability can be also covered and can be authenticated to these means. So this standard is particularly more important to give a holistic approach about the production and processing process and also give a gap analysis for improvement. This approach is having a scope and transaction in place which give traceability to various standard claim or various sustainable materials usage or various sustainable process followed or various claims that made in the final product available. This also gives a holistic approach about the sustainable transport and sustainable packaging in the standards. This gives a complete idea about sustainable textile. That's what we tell it as friend of earth with respect to friend of textile. So this closes my presentation. And if you have any questions, please ask me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Binay. It's great to start collaborating with Control Union. I have just one question, or a couple of questions. Basically, I would like to know how approximately how many customers do you have in the certification arena for textiles? Approximately, are we talking about 1,000, 10,000, 100,000? Just to have an idea of the level of interest at the global level, because you are global.
Yes. At this moment, the sustainable textiles, especially if you look to the organic is below 1%. And the sustainable materials like recycle is below 5%. And the sustainable material used in the world is 40 to 60%. So this covers almost more than 100,000 units in the world who require sustainable materials, who wants to practice sustainable processing method. So this standard will be useful to most of the corporate world who feel to use sustainable material and sustainable process.
So we're talking about approximately 100,000. That's the range. And do you feel that the new laws introduced by the EU against greenwashing are going to further boost this request for certification?
Yeah, Mr. Paolo, as you know that the legislation drives the business and it gives a lot of corner to fix it. And with the EU legislation that need to be fulfilled by 2030, it drives a lot of sustainable green claims and authenticate these claims with digital passport, CSDD, corporate social due diligence, and UDR. So there are many sustainable approaches will be embedded to cover the claim. So ethical balance to have evaluation in this process is essential through this kind of collaborative standards.
That's very clear. Well, thank you very much, Binay, and also to the rest of your team in India and elsewhere. It's great that you managed to participate. I know it's after office time, so I'm glad to let you go and have a rest and have a great weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. So this was Control Union, one of the major certification bodies in the world. It's the biggest in Netherlands. That's where it started. So now I have to put back my glasses, unfortunately. I cannot see as well as my father does, as our president does. So the next speaker, if she's here, I know that she might have had some delays. Yamê Reis. Oh, wonderful. Reis, directly from Rio de Janeiro. Então, podemos falar português. Hello, you're going to speak English? Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So, well, you can introduce yourself, sure. Did you give it to somebody? Okay, so you can use this. It will probably show. You can use this. You can use one of these.
Oh, that is it. Thank you. I finally got a cab to come here. Okay.
Next.
Thank you for having me. My name is Yamê Reis. I come from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And I used to be a fashion designer for almost 30 years. I've worked for many brands in Brazil, retail big brands. And around 2017, I made a change in my career. I stopped producing clothes, and I became an educator and a researcher, because I'm also master in sociology and politics. And then I started in Instituto Europeu de Design, that most of you know here, and we are here in Milan studying with some students that came from Brazil with me. Every year we come here to make some classes and to visit the Fashion Week. And I came back to my master to research about the Brazilian cotton, because I was very curious about the sustainability that the cotton claim. So I'd like to understand why a cotton produced in huge lands with lots of pesticides, cultivated with together with the soybeans and for exporting and not for our consuming. Why was it called sustainable? And so I started my research, and I'm glad to share with you some questions that I put myself on this research. So as you, I don't know if you know that Brazil has a very important position in the history of cotton since the colonial times. And this year, it became the first biggest cotton global exporter. It passed the US. And it is also the first in the Better Cotton Initiative rank, which is a certification that maybe you all know. We are also the fourth largest garment manufacturing park, and we are the fifth biggest textile producer and second biggest clothes producer. So we have a huge industry in Brazil. The country is also the biggest full-scale textile chain of the West, from the fiber production to fashion shows, passing through mill, weaving, manufacturing, and retail. So that's why being the first exporter of cotton turns us so important for this industry. And my question was, as I said, how Brazilian cotton acquired the quality of a sustainable product for exportation. How the cotton agribusiness reached the hegemony of sustainability discourse, gaining ground and acceptance in the fashion field and reaching the consumer market. So in Brazil, we have these two ways of production. This here on the left, which is the majority. We have the monoculture model, led by large-scale producer, using highly mechanized tools and based on usage of pesticides and fertilizers. This is the agribusiness farming model. And here on the right, we have the agroecological family-based cotton farming model, aiming for food safety as an alternative to fight poverty and inequality in low-income countries. It represents only 1% of the Brazilian cotton. All the rest are made by the agribusiness model. So both groups claim for itself the sustainable cotton, but they are quite different. As you see here, more than 85% of conventional cotton production is BCI certified. And so the question is how and why sustainability became an object of dispute and a fundamental element in the power relation between those two groups. And what is the role of certification on this question? I don't know if you know Cerrado. I don't know if you have heard about it. As Cerrado, as you see here in the map, it has a frontier with the Amazon. Spreading throughout the Cerrado, the second largest biome of South America, Brazil has become in the 2000s, one of the 4 biggest cotton producers in the world and the first biggest global exporter now. Since the 70s, Cerrado has been suffering serious environmental impacts due to mines and agriculture occupation, especially soybean. The cotton production completely changed its productive chain, moving from the semi-arid region, you see there in the north, from the colonial times, to Cerrado region, rotating with soybeans, which is the biggest exportation commodity of Brazil. So in Cerrado, as I all the seeds are GMOs, genetic modified, and the biodiversity was all destruction. Now you have this biome of Cerrado is much more destroyed than the Amazon. And in 2009, Brazil has reached the first place in the pesticide consumer rank and the 7th position concerning quantity per planted hectare. 92% of pesticides are controlled by foreign capital enterprises, as you know, Monsanto and Bayer. And Brazil gets the 2nd place in the world in the usage of genetic modified products. And there is a relation, an important direct relation between transgenic seeds and the excessive use of pesticides, capable of attacking the preventing cotton plagues efficiently without destroying the harvest by using, considering that the new seeds are highly resistant, especially to glyphosate. I think that glyphosate is forbidden in Europe, no? And we use it a lot in Brazil. However, the pesticides do not attack only cotton, but the whole biodiversity of the ecosystem. And the most important highlight here is that the most affected directly by the usage of chemical products are the ones who manipulate them, namely the rural workers and their family. So as you can see here, Brazil and US, they are quite different as producers from China and India. As you see, the size of the land, the area, the number of workers, you have a few workers in Brazil and US because it's very technological. You have very, very big machines and you don't see anyone in the field. There are no workers, nobody there, only the machines. Well, so the certification was the main strategy to go to the market from on the cotton. It played the most important role in credibility of conventional cotton. It controls the risks and ensures the compliance with legal labor standards. It started with legal labor standards because in Brazil, in this area, we used to have lots of children workers, and almost like modern slavery was also very usual. So this certification, it controlled all this with legal labor standards, but it brought all these pesticides and everything else. So it became regulatory instruments of the field and validators of sustainability attributes. So sustainability became the new value that was introduced in 2000s by the idea of environmental risk transferred to the individuals. And they also have this group called ABRAPA, which is the National Association of Cotton Producers. They have a very strong political strategy. They are the biggest bench in parliament. They control all the laws, everything against trying to occupy an indigenous territory, try to avoid controlling the pesticides law, everything. They are very strong. And that's why they can, so the defended projects may include the end of demarcation of indigenous lands and the flexibility in the approval of pesticides law. But not only a political strategy, they also built a cultural hegemony and strategy with this campaign, Sou de algodão, that means I am of cotton, I'm made of cotton. Threatened by the advance of synthetic fibers that have passed cotton for the first time in Brazilian market in 2015, the ABRAPA, the association, created strategies to mitigate the risks of losing market share. Approaching the most important fashion players as institutions, fashion week brand leaders, they created the Sou de Algodão, I'm made of cotton, forward to win membership of the National Textile Productive Chain. The goal was to inform and raise awareness of the industry and consumers of the lifespan of products and social environment of economic sustainability of cotton. So they got, they started partnership with thousands of brands in Brazil, small and big brands. The conditions to become a partner of the campaign were to work with cotton and create products containing at least 70% of the fiber. Sou de Algodão has, to date, has more than 1,000 partnered fashion brands. So I'd like to finish my presentation updating some information about an investigation from the Earthsight organization. It's an NGO, an English NGO, that published a report in March of 2024 about the journey of cotton from Cerrado to big fashion retailers as Zara and H&M in Europe. I don't know if you know this report, but it's a very important one. The certified better cotton leaves the farms in Bahia, Cerrado, goes to Asia, where they are woven and become fashion items, exported to Europe in huge amounts of clothes. In the last 10 years, the total exports of these two firms in Brazil, as SLC and Orita Group, which are two of the biggest ones in Brazil. They are the biggest soy producers and cotton. During that period, the last 10 years, they have exported over 1.5 million tons. They identified 8 Asian clothing manufacturers using both cotton of both firms, while at the same time supplying H&M and Zara with millions of items of finished cotton garments. The research revealed lots of illegalities of 2 of the biggest cotton producers in Brazil, as land grabbing, public and indigenous land, corruption and deforestation since the 80s, when they came from south to Cerrado. That means that better cotton certification is very undemanding in checking the responsibility of the producers with regard to the traditional communities. So the final considerations, one is that the new colonial mode of commodity exportation reinforced the international work division regime of the poor countries as nature extractors. There's no difference for us from colonial times. It was the same production model. Sustainability is not only about environmental impact, but primarily about the impact on the poorest and vulnerable people. Most of the poor people in the world are farmers. Brands should be aware of the threat of greenwashing to sustainable fashion and start working to promote and stimulate the growth for the agroecological farming system, recuperating forest areas and the biodiversity of the ecosystem, promoting crop diversification, and ensuring food safety in a scenario of increase of poverty. We are going to see soon the natural cotton color, which is an example of the opposite model of the agribusiness cotton. You all should see there how different it is. The climate change have potential to alter all the agricultural configuration of the world, what represents a huge challenge to the sustainability of production and ecosystems. Sustainability is not only about environment impact, but primarily about the impact on the poorest and vulnerable people. Most of the poor people in the world are farmers, and they are the most affected by climate change. So I thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you very much, Yamê. You really opened up our eyes to very interesting and worrisome situation when certification stem from the industry. There's always a risk of conflict of interest, and Better Cotton Initiative has started from the industry. I always say it's good that the industry moves in a certain direction, but it must maintain verifiable principles. And this is the case in certain situations. Apparently, at least for the Brazil production, this is not the case, because definitely it is hard to accept that this kind of very intensive production can be considered as sustainable. And on top of that, you mentioned also a number of irregularities.
Yeah, I can say that I'm not against certification. By the contrary, I think that it's very, very important to have a certification on all the products. The fact is that Better Cotton is certified by themselves, by the producers themselves. It's quite different from, they are not the third part, to check and see everything. So I think that Better Cotton has to improve the standard of certification. That's the point.
Make them stricter.
Yeah, and while they don't improve, they cannot be called sustainable. They cannot call themselves sustainable cotton. That's my point.
It will be interesting to see how, with the new EU regulation against greenwashing, how deep the regulators will go in actually checking the credibility of certain certifications. So that's, a new challenge. But thank you very much for highlighting this, and thank you for being here. So with this, we finished our session on sustainable fashion. We have some time to recover from this kind of tour de force, this marathon today. But before then going to the fashion show at 5 at the Sala delle Colonne, for those of you who registered. If you haven't registered, you can still try and apply. I really don't know how to thank you. I know that it has been complicated to come here. It might be complicated to go back if the strike starts back at 6. The information I got from friends is that it's not so strict, the strike, so non è così severo lo sciopero, quindi c'è speranza di riuscire a tornare a casa.
The strike is not that strict, so we hope to go back home tonight. So thank you, everyone. Those the subscribers are now will receive everything, and if you want to receive the presentations, just tell us. Chiara, she's coming here. She's your contact person if you need something. Thank you again, and I hope to see you again also in our concept store in Milan if you want to keep discussing these topics. Thank you, and have a good evening.